Soon as it goes. Good morning, LinkedIn followers and listeners. Thank you for joining us today. I am here this morning with Rachel Mess from Rachel Mess Accessibility and Brand Design. Rachel, good morning. How are you? Tell us about yourself.
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Very, very well. Thank you. Very.
Good.
So tell us about your business. Tell us about the products and services and what makes you an accessibility brand consultant. Tell me that.
Cool. So I started out just doing web design. And like a lot of designers, I realized that a lot of clients will also need help with kind of their branding overall. So whether it's updating their logo or helping them with their marketing and kind of being sort of all round like support, I suppose, with the brand overall. Because although it's good to give them a new website, you kind of want to see their business really kind of flourish with that, and you kind of need to start looking at other elements. The
Okay.
accessibility came in because my sister is visually impaired, and she had pointed out on my very first website that I'd
Yeah.
done for myself, that because I'd done the thing that everybody does when they're fully sighted and like pick the colours I liked and the fonts that I like.
Yeah.
And where everyone else was like, it looks great. And I was very chuffed with myself. She had one look at it and was like, that text is hard to read. And I was like, oh, shoot. Okay. Well, that's not helpful. So that kind of took me down the rabbit hole of accessibility.
I suppose it's good to have somebody who will be just bluntly honest with you and say,
Of
"Ugh."
course. Yeah.
So that,
Yeah, for
that
sure.
so your unique selling point would be what? Is that the accessibility? What is your
I
unique
think the
selling?
accessibility, because there's not a lot of designers and agencies who seem to put a focus on it, or at least talk about it. I think that's the thing,
Yeah,
is maybe they are doing it, but a lot of people aren't talking about it.
I fully
And
agree with you on that.
I'll speak to a lot of business owners. In fact, I think you're one of the business owners I've spoken to, and you're going, oh, do you know what? Nobody's ever really spoken about this to me. So that seems to be kind of feedback that I get quite a lot of. Just nobody else mentioning it.
Yeah, no, and I agree. A lot of designers, if you look at their website, if you look at the coding behind, they've not thought about the accessibility aspect of a
Mhm.
website. So fully, can you share with us a few of the milestones in your progression with your business? What has been the big milestones in your business so far?
Milestones. I don't. I'm still at the start, so I'm only a couple of years in with my business. So I still kind of think one of my biggest milestones is just starting it.
Yeah,
And like leaving my full time job to do this as a freelancer. Um, but then you get those like bigger projects with like more established businesses and starting to offer kind of new things, like when I work, depending on the size of a client's budget, we sometimes like work with a photographer to get like really great
yeah,
branded photos or a video for things like that. So I think having that sort of milestone of working with a more established business, that I was like, oh well, we could actually do this as well. And it's not just me by myself, like grabbing some stock images or asking them to send me photos and they're taking it on their phones and things like that. Being able to go like, yeah, you know what, I'm just
yeah.
gonna get this for you. I'll do that. And that was a wee bit of a milestone in terms of like what I was delivering as a service provider.
Okay. So what is your with setting up a business? Everybody has a goal or some aspiration. What is your objective and your goal with your business? Where do you what do you want to achieve? In other words.
I think there's a few things. Like everybody, obviously kind of more like financial freedom is definitely one of them. The ability to travel whilst
Mhm.
working remotely is a big one for me. I'm not at
Yeah.
that stage yet, but
Mhm.
that's definitely like a goal. And I also think just living more like on your values and working with people that you align with. Again, like a lot of people when you're in full time work, like didn't always agree maybe with like the director. Not that we had any kind of interaction. I would just be seeing interaction up there going,
Yeah.
I don't think I like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice when you're by yourself, you have that sort of autonomy over who you're working with and what sort of businesses you want to help. I think that's part of it too.
Brilliant. Okay. So, I mean, obviously, as you've set up the business and you're reaching out more customers, you've got some kind of marketing strategy, or how you've researched your niche market. Give us a little of insights is into that.
For how I do my marketing, do you mean?
No. Into your like your marketing research, how you find your target audience. Yeah, that type of thing. So yeah, it would be your marketing.
I'd say that I'm still in the winging it part. Like, I'd love to give a good answer for like all the research I've done for ideal clients and stuff like that, and how do I reach them. But that's actually something that I struggle with quite a bit, because I'm always trying to like learn new things. And whether that's like developing like skills for the design on the design side, or learning more in the accessibility. And then people are like, who's your ideal client? Like, and I'm like, honestly, my ideal client is anybody nice who I'd say ideal clients are less of like a certain type of person.
Yeah.
It's businesses that have got a website that's been kind of up for 5 to 10 years, and they're now at the stage where they're just like, please don't look at that, to their customers. They're like, don't look at the website. I love those ones because we can really go in and make like a proper transformation. But that's hard to like research. There's no like data to like kind of work with there. It's just kind of coming.
I think all businesses, if they were honest, if the business owners were honest, we all do struggle with marketing, trying to reach that ideal customer, because if there was a magic pot where we could go to and say those people are looking for the exact service I want, it would be easy. But it's learning, like you said, learning those different techniques, learning new skills.
Yeah. And I think that when it's web design, it's for any kind of service-based business. There's a million people do the thing that you do. So there's, all the business owners in the world that have got a really outdated website, they're not typing like, which web designer loves transforming old websites into great ones. Like, they're just looking for probably like a local web designer, and like hopefully you'll maybe come across them, whether that's kind of through SEO work or recommendations or things like that. But when there's like a million web designers, like all you can really do is sort of like build your kind of personal brand, I suppose, as well as you can, and hopefully like have like consistent enough marketing that you're kind of getting into spaces that you can't get to physically.
Good. So from your daily tasks, so from this week, so we start in a new week now. How would you organize your day? What's your normal way of working?
Basically, I'm like a checklist girl and Google Calendar. Like, between those, like kind of blocking out like appointments and then having like a checklist on, whether that's on a bit of paper or on my phone or whatever. There's usually a checklist there to kind of keep me right. So whether I do that in the morning or it's the day before, like today's checklist I done yesterday, and was like, right, what are the things you need to do tomorrow? But yeah, definitely checklists.
So what is your favorite? What type of favorite software do you have? Because again, in your daily planning and all that kind of stuff, there would be certain type of software that you would use for designing. Just talk us through some of the software that you would use and why you would choose that type of software.
So for designing, I use Figma, which is kind of one of the kind of most standard like design softwares that is out there. So Figma is definitely the chosen design software. I develop in Webflow, so that is the kind of second biggest software that I use. And then things like Canva for like your social media, things like that. I'm just getting to know the Adobe suite. So far, because I'd started off with doing like stock images, and then I was hiring photographers so getting like really good photos from photographers. But then I'll look at other people's designs and I'm just like, oh, I want to like improve here. So I've got the Adobe Suite now so that I can start kind of elevating the designs, I would say.
So do you specialize with Webflow? Is that's your speciality? Okay. Do you do any other type of platforms? Do you do WordPress or HTML5?
I don't do WordPress. I've literally gone into WordPress like twice for somebody saying, oh, I'd really like to kind of update my homepage or something like that. And I've gone in and spent a few hours doing it and then like couldn't find the page that I'd just created. And I was like, why? This makes no sense. Where has it gone? I found WordPress quite unintuitive when it came to kind of updating like sizes of certain elements and things like that. So that was enough for me to be like, no, I don't like this. I'm gonna stick with Webflow. I've jumped into Squarespace for like just kind of more to play with it and see how easy it is. I'd say that with my kind of learnings there was that I'll recommend Squarespace to anyone that's like still at the really early stage and they don't have the budget for a web design project. I'm really like, go on to Squarespace for half an hour, play around with it, and you'll be grand. But when it comes to me doing the development, it's always Webflow.
And what's your view on Wix? Because a lot of people, I mean, two of the big platforms that I found that people really love is, when you're talking to people who want to do a DIY project, will be WordPress and Wix. So what's your view on Wix?
Do you know, I've not actually gone into Wix. I'd say that the Wix websites that I've seen, though, aren't as nice as the Squarespace ones. That's kind of my view. Now, to be honest, I've not done a heap of research on this, but I have a friend who has a Wix website, and I was like, oh, I'm not loving this. And then I read it into Squarespace, and I was like, well, this is so easy. Why does this not look as nice as this one? So I've kind of just like made my own kind of image of what Wix is like, maybe to work with. But I'd say that I definitely always recommend Squarespace over Wix, just kind of on that.
Yeah. So working with Webflow, do you do hard coding or do you use their drop-in?
Yeah. So Webflow is a no-code platform, so it has certain kind of drag and drop elements. It's like a box model, so you're putting in your sections and then your div blocks and your containers and things like that, and adjusting their sizes and all of that. So you're kind of doing drag and drop, but then giving it the CSS that it needs to have.
Yeah. I do like Webflow. I said I use the same as you. I use Figma quite a lot. It's quite a good way to plan the website. And then to present it to you present this is what it's going to look like before actually committing to doing the work and all that kind of stuff. So it's quite good. So from a marketing strategy viewpoint, how do you market yourself out there, and what advice would you give people when it comes to marketing? I accept, I understand you're quite a small business, you're still young in your business, but we all learn from each other. So that's.
I'm going to sound very similar to, I think, a lot of people here where I'll say, like, get on LinkedIn. Like, I think LinkedIn is the best platform for like learning from other people, for having more kind of like conversations about whatever it is that you're talking about. I'm pretty like I'd started on Instagram, didn't really like love it in terms of like marketing on the marketing side of it. Really then focus on LinkedIn. Now I just post like my same stuff from LinkedIn onto Instagram. And Instagram, like there's not nearly the same level of engagement and people like kind of actually like asking you questions or just having more conversations with you, whereas LinkedIn I just think is amazing for that. And like if you want to, I think going along to in-person networking events or online networking events is great just for meeting other business owners. I'm a big fan of both of them, to be honest. Yeah, I like online networking and getting along to a few in-person ones just so that I'm away from the desk. And meeting people in real life.
Saying that, online networking, which network groups do you belong to, and which ones would you recommend?
So I'm in two. So I'm in Only, which you are also in.
Yes.
And Only is fab. Big fan of
Yeah.
Only. And I'm also in a UK wide kind of women's networking group, which is called Inspire.
Okay.
That is run by a woman called Nikki Tapley, who's down in I want to say Southampton.
Yeah.
I think that's right. Sorry, Nikki, if I've got that wrong. So that's a really nice group as well. For going along. If there's any kind of like little specific things that you're maybe struggling with, you can go in and be like, this is something that I can't get over, or I keep debating, and it's a really nice group for then just suggesting ideas and how to overcome things.
So when it comes to, because when people talk about online networking or networking, and that, have you found that to be beneficial to your business? And because some people shy away from it and they're scared of sitting in front of a camera. Do you think that's been beneficial to you to help grow your business?
Yeah, for sure. I think the more you talk to anybody, especially when it's other business owners, that like it can kind of, I think it can only be beneficial regardless. Like you might not get any clients. I'm trying to think if I've had any clients from Only, and I don't think that I have. I've had a couple of inquiries, but I don't think I've had any projects. Again, sorry if somebody in Only is going like, what are you talking about, Rachel? But even if you don't get any work from it, meeting kind of other peers or like doing your little 30-second pitch on what you talk about and answering questions, you're going to kind of like learn more about your own business and what it is that people are interested in. I mean, when I first kind of like had mentioned accessibility, the amount of people that were like, wow, like we've never heard anyone like talking about that. I was like, oh, I better talk about this then, because that is something that seems to be unique. And everyone's always talking about like, what's your USP? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just another web designer. But it was through networking that I was like, oh, accessibility seems to be my USP, because nobody else is talking about it. And a lot of designers don't do the things that you're supposed to do on the accessibility front.
Yeah, and I think to be fair, you're probably one of the first people I've come across from a web design perspective that has spoken about the accessibility. And you can look at numerous websites to see that there are very, very, very few web designers out there that even consider accessibility. Then it's more about, because it's more just about the image, making, and there are beautiful websites out there, don't get me wrong, but they just don't always think about.
And I think the frustrating thing there is that a lot of business owners, like, they have no clue. So they've just paid like thousands of pounds for a new site, and it looks incredible, and they're like, oh my god, brilliant. But I always like to use the examples of like architects or interior designers. And if you're an architect and there's not a single description on any of the images of the work that you've done, a blind homeowner who still has a full-time job, owns their own home, wants to get an extension in their house, like as an independent person, Google's architect near me, you come up, and all they get is either like gallery image 1, gallery image 2, something silly like that, or it's just like filled with keywords. And like they're not phoning them up to be like, oh hi, I'd really like to quote to you. They're just like, okay, well, this isn't helpful, bye. And then they'll leave. But that architect firm, or that whatever that business is, they have no idea that they've like lost a sale because of that.
No, fair enough. Okay. So my next question on that is, can you share a memorable customer feedback or a moment, something that really stands out in your mind from someone you've worked with in the?
I worked with, I don't know if you know Emma Dwight, a girl called Emma Greer, who's a copywriter. And Emma's feedback really like made me dead chuffed, because she said something along the lines of like the design and the words finally match up. because as a copywriter, she had all the words like right for describing like who she helps, what she does, why her service is, why she's great to work with. But she really hated like the design of our website, and she was like, I cannot get this. And it was great at the end of working together where she was just like, oh, this actually like feels like me, like this feels like it matches me and like the standard of the work and all of that. So that was definitely something where I was like, okay, good, I got it right.
So what building loyal customers and that, what advice would you give somebody to make a customer loyal to you and to keep coming back?
I think always just like checking in with them. I don't, because with Webflow, like I don't charge for maintenance because I don't have like plugins or anything that I need to like keep updated for clients. So kind of like once the site is done, it's sort of in their hands to like keep it updated with things.
Yeah.
But checking in every like 3 to 6 months and seeing like how they're getting on, is there anything that needing help with, things like that, or just is there anything that you're looking for? Is a good way to kind of just like let them know that you're still around for help if they need it. And they kind of, I guess, like don't forget about you. And they hopefully, I think, doing it every 3 to 6 months is a nice way where they don't feel like you're trying to like sell to them. They're not like, no, we're fine. Leave us alone. We're good to at 3 to 6 months. It's just like, oh, that's nice that you've checked in. Thanks very much. How are you getting on? Because when you're in a project with somebody, you still get to know each other pretty well, and hopefully you become pretty friendly, and it means that you're genuinely asking them like, how are things? Do you need a hand with anything? If not, just hope you and the team are well. And you can reach out.
It's building that, getting to know them, like them, and then them trust you. So it's that's that whole thing, because they'll buy from someone they know, like, and trust, and that's what you're trying to build, that relationship, rather than just trying to suck money out of them.
Exactly. Nobody likes a vampire that's gonna just
So going forward with your business, what's your future plans? What's your aspirations with your business?
So working on a new offer at the moment to kind of help the newer businesses that are just starting. So working on that offer, and I think just like improving like skills, developing more skills on like the design side, with like the Adobe Suite things. Because although the websites are good at the moment, I'd like there to be a wee bit more depth. I think from the design point of view, I'm just like, oh, I want to like build on this a wee bit more. So I think just now it's in a different sort of like learning and like skills building stage.
Yeah. I mean, that will lead me on to my next question, is about staying updated with the industry trends and that. Is that continuous learning and improvement? What other steps would you take to keep up to date?
I think always doing like research on, also like in the development side of things, like Framers become a really big software. And I was reading or watching? I came across a piece of content about Framer the other day. Do you know what? I was reading it, and it was whether or not it was accessible. And I was like, oh, well, cool, let's see about this. And it was saying like it kind of has the same accessibility features as what Webflow does, with adding alt tags, having ARIA labels, things like that. So that was kind of good to know. I've not really dove into Framer yet, but it's probably something that I'll look at some point. But I think just that, like, you should always you always need to kind of keep up with certain things.
Definitely. When you, from the time you've started your business to now, have you had to try and alter the course a little bit to try and adjust? So when you started the business, you were going this way, and you've had to kind of shift your focus a little bit.
I don't think so. I think I'm probably actually back to almost to where I was at the start in terms of actually that direction, because when I first started, I'd got my diploma in UX design, and I'd like done a few courses, and one of the courses was all to do with like pricing your modules or pricing your packages, things like that. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to work with businesses that are going to pay me like between this much and this much. And then you actually go out there and people are like, oh, that's funny. I'm going to pay you this much. And you're like, okay, that's fine. I'll do it. Whereas now, you know, we're coming up for 2 years. So now it's kind of back to like, oh, no, I'm going to work with people that are going to pay me between this much and this much. And it's a lot more kind of, I now have the experience and the portfolio and have a way better understanding of the value that I'm bringing to kind of charge what that's worth. Whereas, so at the start there was definitely a dip, and I was just like, I'll literally do it for anything that you want to pay me. So whereas now back to being more focused on prices.
Yeah, it's just learning to know what your value is, the value that you will add to that business. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Exactly.
That's very good. So what advice would you give anybody who was wanting to start a business, whether that's web design or anything, but would be wanting to either start a business or to try and scale a little bit? What kind of advice would you give?
I think for starting anyway, this is hard advice I'm supposed to give. I would say like don't just jump ship and leave the security of your full-time job like I did. But I was kind of forced to because he wouldn't let me go part-time. So I was like, well, then I need to. Yeah, I think definitely just have like a safety net there before you do it, because I didn't realize how much the kind of feast famine mode really went, like the peaks and troughs would go. So definitely having a safety net there is crucial. And for scaling really, I'd be looking for people to give me advice on that. I think my version of scaling has been like finding other service providers like photographers and videographers or copywriters to work with, so that it's not just me having to do like everything. Like, but I can, and also like, that's not going to be that great if I'm doing everything and just working with stock images or whatever it is. But working with other professionals, then we're all kind of working on a project together. That's been my version of scaling. So
that is very insightful, and it is really brilliant advice, because so many people will try and do everything themselves, because I think that's the best way to save money, is that you know, if I can make as much money, I can do it all. I can make as much money as possible, but you actually don't do as good a job by doing exactly what you've
it's
done.
so stressful. It puts a lot of things on your plate, and
Do you have any last words of wisdom to impart upon us?
Make sure your website's accessible, and if it's not accessible, then connect with me on LinkedIn and we can have a chat. I think that's it.
Brilliant. Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving up some of your time today, Rachel. You know, time is money. Anybody is watching this video and they want to get hold of Rachel, her details are at the bottom of the screen here. Scrolling down the bottom, you can contact her. I'm sure she'll be happy to hear from you. Thank you very much for your time, Rachel, and have a good day.
Thanks, Dwight. See you later.
Okay. I gotta just come off.